Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Conversation Practice Podcast. My name is Alex, and today's story is a very special one. How to learn English by listening to this story, and at the same time, enjoy a journey full of courage, adventure, and discovery. This is the story of James Turner, a young man who always felt that life was bigger than the small village where he grew up. James Turner was born in Ireland in a quiet village near the mountains in the year 1722. His family were farmers. The land gave them food, work, and safety. James's father often said, "The earth gives good rewards if you work hard. That is enough." But James felt something different. While he worked in the fields with his hands, his mind was far away, thinking about distant places. He loved listening to travelers who passed through, merchants, sailors, and people from faraway lands. They spoke of big cities, wide oceans, and countries with people very different from anyone James had seen. Each story made James curious about the world. When James turned 18, he felt a strong desire to see the world. His father noticed this and tried to convince him to stay. "You have everything you need here," his father said. "Why do you want more?" James wanted to promise his father he would stay, but the idea of living a quiet, normal life felt impossible. A spring morning, a caravan of merchants arrived in the village. Among them was a man from Dublin. He spoke about work at the harbor and about sailing to England, Spain, and other countries. James listened carefully. That night, he could not sleep. A week later, James made a big decision. He packed a small bag, said goodbye quietly, and walked toward the city. He did not know what would happen, but his desire to explore was stronger than his fear. Dublin was loud and busy. The smell of the sea mixed with wood smoke, fish, and salt. James found work as a helper at the harbor, carrying goods and learning the sailors' routines. The work was tiring, but for the first time, he felt alive. After months of watching ships and listening to sailors' stories, James boarded his first voyage. The ship was going to Spain. At first, the journey was calm. The sky was clear and the waves were gentle. James thought he had made the right choice. But soon, the weather changed. Strong winds hit the ship, waves crashed over the side, and men shouted orders James could barely understand. He felt very afraid. For a moment, he thought of home, the quiet fields, and his father's words. The storm passed. The ship was damaged, but still afloat. Instead of returning to Ireland, James chose to continue. He wanted to face the challenges ahead. This one decision changed James's life. He would now see new cities, meet people from all over Europe, and face dangers he could not imagine. But it all started with one brave step, leaving home to follow a dream. The morning after the storm, James stepped onto the ship's deck. The ship still moved under his feet, swaying gently with the waves. The crew worked quietly, each person focused on repairing the damage from the storm. James saw torn sails, ropes scattered everywhere, and broken wooden boards. He felt tired but joined the others to help fix the ship. Every task felt heavy, but he kept working, knowing that his effort was important. Over the next days, James started to understand life at sea. He learned how to tie ropes quickly and correctly. He learned how to watch the clouds to predict the weather. He listened carefully to the ship's creaks to know when it was under pressure. Captain Rodriguez, the ship's leader, gave him small jobs like checking the ropes and helping with navigation. James was nervous because a single mistake could be dangerous, but with practice, he became more confident each day. One afternoon, the lookout shouted, "Land ahead!" The crew cheered with excitement. James had never seen Portugal before. When the ship entered the harbor, he was amazed by the colorful houses, busy streets, and smells of bread and salted fish. James followed some sailors into the town to explore. He noticed how people moved quickly in the narrow streets and spoke a language that sounded musical and strange to him. Near the waterfront, he saw a young boy struggling to carry a basket of fish. Without thinking, James ran to help him. The boy's father, a fisherman named Miguel, came over and thanked James warmly. Miguel invited James to stay at their small home. James agreed, happy for the kindness and curious to learn about local life. That evening, James shared a simple meal with Miguel's family. He learned a few words in Portuguese and realized the gestures, smiles, and kindness could help communicate even without knowing the language well. Life felt calmer in the town, but James never forgot the dangers of the sea. One night, whispers spread among the sailors. Pirates were nearby. The captain ordered everyone to prepare the ship for danger. James felt fear in his chest, but he remembered what he had learned: tying knots, handling sails, and staying calm under pressure. For several days, the crew stayed alert, watching the horizon for any sign of pirates. James practiced steering a small lifeboat in case they needed to escape. Every movement on the deck became careful and precise. He watched the experienced sailors and tried to copy their techniques. He realized that surviving at sea depended on teamwork and trust. Finally, one morning, a dark shape appeared on the horizon. A pirate ship with black sails was coming fast. James's heart beat quickly. The crew moved fast, adjusting the sails and securing weapons. James held the ropes tightly, trying to control his shaking hands. Even though he was afraid, he felt a strange excitement. He was part of something bigger than himself. Captain Rodriguez guided the ship skillfully, avoiding the pirates without a fight. After hours, the danger passed. The crew breathed with relief. James collapsed on the deck, his muscles aching, but he felt proud. He looked at the vast ocean and understood that he had faced fear and learned to trust his courage and instincts. That night, James sat quietly thinking about everything he had experienced. He had survived a storm, visited a foreign town, and faced pirates. Each challenge made him stronger. He realized that adventure was not only about traveling to new places, it was also about discovering inner strength, courage, and the ability to face the unknown. The next morning, James woke early. The smell of salt and wet wood filled the air. The ship was quiet, except for the soft creak of the hull and the calls of seabirds. Today, the crew would sail to the next port. James felt nervous but excited. He had learned the routine, but life at sea always brought new challenges. As the ship moved through the waves, James looked at the horizon. The endless blue sea made him feel both small and alive. He spent hours studying the navigation charts, learning about currents, winds, and routes. Captain Rodriguez noticed James's dedication. He offered to teach James more advanced skills, like reading the stars and using the compass. James listened carefully. These skills would be very important for long journeys. One afternoon, while adjusting the sails, James saw a pod of dolphins swimming alongside the ship. They jumped and played in the sunlight. James smiled and called to the crew. Several sailors came to watch, laughing as the dolphins danced. For a moment, James felt peace. The beauty of the sea reminded him why he had chosen this life: adventure and discovery. A few days later, the ship reached the Strait of Gibraltar. The narrow waters were crowded with fishing boats and merchant ships. James helped signal other ships, learning the gestures that prevented accidents. He was amazed at how sailors communicated without words, using experience and understanding instead. In the evenings, James often spoke quietly with Captain Rodriguez on the quarterdeck. The captain shared stories of storms, dangerous journeys, and distant ports. James listened carefully, learning from the captain's experience. Every story taught him lessons that could save lives at sea. One night, under a sky full of stars, James saw a faint glow on the horizon. He told the captain, who quickly used the telescope. They saw lights of a small fishing village on the coast of Morocco. James felt excitement and wonder. He looked forward to stepping ashore, meeting new people, and exploring unknown streets. When the ship docked, James stepped onto the warm sand. Children ran along the shore, fishermen carried their catch, and merchants arranged colorful fabrics. James walked through narrow streets, taking in the sights, sounds, and smells. He met a merchant named Hassan, who offered him tea and asked about his journey. James spoke carefully, using gestures and simple words. Hassan smiled and listened patiently, laughing at small mistakes. By the end of the day, James felt connected to the people and the village. He understood that life at sea was not only about surviving storms or avoiding danger. It was also about meeting new people, learning their ways, and finding kindness in strangers. He returned to the ship feeling happy and ready for the next journey. Every new experience taught him more about the world and himself. James realized that traveling was more than visiting places. It was about discovering people, learning from them, and growing stronger. The ocean, the towns, and the friendships were all part of his adventure. With each new port, James felt more confident and more curious about the world. After leaving Morocco, James thought about everything he had seen and learned so far. The ocean was wide and endless, full of possibilities. With every wave, James felt stronger and more confident. He had learned to read the wind and the currents, and he worked well with the crew. They had become like a second family to him. But James realized that the real adventure was not only sailing, it was learning about the world and the people in it. In the next few days, the ship met changing weather. Dark clouds appeared, and the crew had to act quickly to secure the sails. James worked hard, pulling ropes and helping wherever needed. His heart beat fast, but he trusted Captain Rodriguez and the experienced sailors around him. The storm was hard and tiring, but James felt proud when it passed. He had faced fear and danger, and he had survived. Each challenge made him braver and more skilled. During quiet times, James wrote in his journal. He described the places he had visited, the people he had met, and the lessons he had learned. He also practiced English by telling the stories out loud. He used simple words, tried new phrases, and spoke slowly to remember them. This helped him improve his English while he learned about the world. James discovered that listening, observing, and speaking aloud helped him remember more than reading alone. Weeks later, the ship reached a small island in the Caribbean. The warm tropical air and the bright green trees were very different from the cool waters of the Atlantic. James stepped onto the soft sand, feeling the sun on his skin. Children smiled and waved at him. The islanders welcomed the crew warmly. They shared stories, music, and food with James and the sailors. James joined the celebrations. He danced at first awkwardly, but soon he laughed and moved more freely. He spoke with the locals using simple words and gestures. Even when he made mistakes, the people were kind and patient. James realized that learning English, or any language, was not about speaking perfectly. It was about trying, listening, and connecting with others. Every conversation was a chance to learn. As the sun began to set, James walked to the shore and looked back at the island. He felt grateful for all the experiences he had had, for the people he had met, and for the lessons he had learned. He also looked forward to the future. Many adventures were still waiting for him, and he felt ready for them. Traveling had taught him courage, patience, and kindness. It showed him that the world was bigger than he had ever imagined, but also full of friendly faces and opportunities to grow. James knew that his journey was only beginning. He felt proud of how far he had come, from a quiet village in Ireland to new lands across the ocean. Every storm, every port, and every challenge shaped him into a stronger and wiser person. If you enjoyed following James on his adventure and want to improve your English, listening to stories like this is a great way to learn. By listening regularly, you can learn new words, understand sentences better, and feel more confident speaking. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more exciting stories, discover new places, and continue improving your English. Every story is a chance to practice, and every adventure is a step towards speaking English fluently.